All right, guys, it's 8 o'clock. Let's hit it. Welcome to Weird War Wednesday, episode 12. This is number 12 already. Good Lord. Seems like we just started yesterday. But okay, so tonight, again, Mel is working tonight, so I'm going to be manning the conversations as well as doing the conversating. So if I don't get to your message right away, just bear with. And if I now don't forget, you guys, be sure to watch the the director's cut version of this. This is when I add all the extra bits and bobbles and videos and funny shit, and you'll even see your name and maybe your face is on that shit. So you never know. It pays to be pals of Weird World War II because I'll make you famous. I will make you famous.
I'll make you famous.
All right, guys. So tonight we are talking about, let's see, what do I got my notes here? We're going to be doing the website that we're doing tonight is going to be Tex. What do we just? Okay, so this website that I'm talking about tonight is the game group that I belong to, and they got the shittiest name. It's Central Texas Board Game and Miniatures. It just doesn't flow. So it's like CENTEX Gaming is what I'm going to call it. So, but yeah. So I will throw up not throw up because that's kind of nasty. I will put a link in the chat and then later in the description. Let you guys check it out. Oh, Biz Bum Sheethead. CENTEX Gaming, that's it. Swing over there. That's kind of like me and my gaming crew. A bunch of cool dudes. Lifelong gamers, these guys. These guys have, with their combined ages, it's like there's probably 1,000 years of experience in gaming there. Woo! I'm gonna get it for that one. But yeah, a divergent group of guys. They're all older, but a divergent group of guys. Everything from politicians to Marine Corps commanders to admirals to physicists, and then dumbass me. I don't know how the fuck I got in that group of eggheads, but great guys. But yeah, so if you're in the Waco, Central Texas area, and you want, you're looking for, maybe some gaming or some people to chill with, chemistry professor, excuse me, sir. But yeah, physics suck, man. Shit, yeah, I didn't do very well in that. But swing over to the site, and you can see what we've been playing. We've been playing, our game house, the carriage house is what we call it, just got finished. The upstairs, the big giant game room. So this weekend I'll be helping those guys move up all their toys and all their badass stuff upstairs, so we can just go crazy gaming. But yeah, you can check out our exploits. We don't do too much Weird War, but we do venture into the weird sometimes. But anyway, check out the site, Central Texas, or CENTEX Games, which you can call it. If you're interested in gaming, get in touch with Richard. He's our the master gamer. Well, he hosts, so talk to him. Maybe we can all get together and play a game or some shit. But great bunch of guys. We do lots of different gaming, and they are OCD like motherfuckers. So everything's painted, everything's like built, and everything looks nice. So it's definitely a site worth checking out just to see what all the cool toys and stuff they got going on. It's true, the Illuminati. That's right. I got them in my pocket. But that's right. I don't tell you all my connections, Greg. Come on now. I got to keep some back. I got to keep a little bit back. For the media tonight, we're going to do the Captain America movies, and I'm going to rip them to shit because I'm a huge man, guys. I was collecting Captain America in the early 80s, late 70s, right? and nobody collected Captain America. Everybody thought he was cheesy, patriotic loser, whatever the fuck. But I was staunch, diehard Cap fan. I was like the only person I knew that collect Captain America. Now everybody fucking loves him. And don't get me wrong, I mean that's great. I'm glad that there's new fans of Cap coming in and whatnot, and I want to foster that, that love for the character. But I got some issues with some of the movies. But we'll go through the movies later, and then we're going to talk about tank hunters in your gaming. That could be, dedicated tank hunters with specialized weaponry. Or tank hunters because they have to, just infantry that are thrust into the position. They're given explosives or just charging the damn thing and putting whatever they can in the turret or trying to start fires in the engine deck, whatever it might be, to stop that tank. And takes some tough motherfuckers to run up to an enemy tank, and start messing with it. So we'll get into that. But okay, so. Now, the Captain America movies. Now, I only did movies. Okay, now, there's and I did movies, like film movies, not like animated movies, any cartoon stuff or any of that. I'll mention the 1970s TV movie with, Biff McLarge.
We put our faith in blast hard cheese,
slab bulkhead, bold big flank,
splint chest hair, flint iron stag,
bolt Vanderhuge,
thick McRunfast,
buff drink lots,
front slam chest,
fist rock bone,
stump beef knob,
smash lamp jaw,
punch rock groin,
buck plank chest,
stump junkman,
dirk hard peck,
rip steak face,
slate slab rock,
prod bone meal,
brick hard meat,
whip slag cheek,
punch side iron,
gristle McThornbody,
slate fist crunch,
buff hardback,
Bob Johnson. Oh wait, blast thick neck,
crunch butt steak,
slab squat thrust,
lump beef broth,
touch rust rod,
reef blast body, big McLarge huge, smoke man muscle,
beat punch beef,
hack blow fist, roll fizzle beat.
Shit, I can't remember his name. I have his damn autograph. Rev Brown plays him. But anyway, we'll get into that. But, okay, so Captain America, okay? Let me just start off here. So you should know the origin of Cap. Now, again, Cap was written in 1941 or 1940. I think it was 41. Where his origin is that, he's a sickly guy, a 4F, couldn't join the military, wanted to help his country but couldn't, was just weak. Then he was recruited into a special experimental operation, and then he's turned into so he's peak of human potential, okay, and maybe even a little bit more. But they don't really, from what I remember, they don't want to make him he's not superhuman. He's just the peak of human possibility. So that's what Operation Rebirth allowed him to do with the super soldier serum. So he was created. Then the Professor Erskine was killed by a Nazi agent. So the plan for making a whole army of super soldiers was destroyed after Erskine's death. Okay. Now, Cap, so in the various stages or reincarnations of Cap, that's pretty much what it is. He finds Bucky Buchanan Barnes, which is Bucky. Bucky was the camp mascot at Camp Lehigh, and kind of stumbled in on Cap, changing into his red, white, and blues. So they became partners and all that fun shit, right? So that is, and then when Stan Lee took it over in the in the 60s, when Marvel came about and they were going to reincarnate Cap, when Cap got frozen in ice and then he's rethawed, and that was his, that was the engine to get him into the modern time. So that was purely Stan Lee, creating a story to bring Cap into the modern time, which is at that time in the 60s. So the story of him and Bucky were trying to stop a drone. So then this is in the comics, guys. This is in the movie. I'm just kind of doing an origin. In the comics, there's Baron Zemo actually was shooting off this drone that was going to blow up some shit. And Bucky and Cap jumped on there, and Cap couldn't hold on, and Bucky was trying to rip out the controls, to stop the. It's basically a V1 is what it was, and Cap falls, right, and then Bucky, blows up and dies. Okay, and Cap falls into the, I think it's the Arctic Ocean or the North Sea or wherever the hell he was, and then he freezes, and then big old block of ice. And then Namor swims by and he jumps out and he sees a bunch of like Eskimos like praying to this block of ice deity in there. And Namor's pissed. He's like, I am your god. And he picks up the fucking ice and he throws it in the water and it starts to melt and Cap's reborn. Okay, so that is the modern origin of Captain America. Okay, so let's dive into the first movie.
I'm afraid the district attorney won't recognize Miss Richards when he finds her a withered mummy.
The commissioner's been alibying his failure to turn up anything in these Purple Death murders.
You remember the commissioner and I have cleaned up crime waves in this town before.
Yes, that mysterious Captain America did most of your work for you.
I feel certain that this new crime wave will bring him out of hiding to help us. Where's Gail Richards?
Well, you'll never find her.
Okay, so Captain America, the first incarnation of Captain America on film, okay, was done in 1944 by Republic Pictures. And this was the first future Marvel Comics character to ever be filmed, okay, on live action film, okay? And back then it wasn't Marvel, it was, dude, I just went blank. It was, wasn't Atlas. Shit, I forgot. Anyway, I just went blank. But anyway, so it was a 15-part serial. You know the serials back in the day where it was like the serials would run in front of movie features, and then they'd be like 15 minutes long, and then it would stop, and then next week there'd be another serial in front of the new feature. So it'd just be kind of a reason for you to come and watch it. But 15-part serial, okay? It was directed by Elmer Clifton and John English. Now, both of these guys you won't know. I mean, unless you're some crazy movie buff. Both of these guys were like silent film stars and directors like back in the day, like way back in the day. And they did a shit ton of films, like acting and directing for mostly Republic. But, I mean, it's prolific. I mean, there's tons of shit. They were in a lot of stuff. But, so that's what, and again, I'm not familiar with most of those movies. Some of those movies I could recognize, like the Elmer Clifton was in Birth of a Nation, which is like one of the first, like, big blockbuster kind of type movies. But it was written by like 50 different fucking people, so there's too many to talk about. So I don't. Okay, so Captain America. Let's talk about the story here. Okay, so Atlas Comics. That's who Cap is in this time right now. Okay, so what happens is they get a hold of the rights to do this, and they start to film these serials, and it's fucking nothing like Cap. Okay, Captain America, he's not Steve Rogers, it's Grant Gardner, and he's a DA. He's not even a soldier. He's not superhuman. None of that shit. He's a DA. He's working to solve these crimes, and he doesn't even have a shield, guys. He has the outfit, but he doesn't even have a shield. Doesn't have the origin. Has nothing. Has nothing to do with the comic book Captain America, and that pisses me off. Okay. So and then he doesn't fight against Captain America's arch nemesis is the Red Skull. In this show, it's not the Red Skull. It's the Scarab. So it's just like they just got like the costume, and that was it. That was the only thing that was even remotely like close to Captain America. Everything else was nothing. Had nothing to do with the comics. And Marvel or Atlas was pissed. They were pissed. The comic guys were pissed. But too late. It's already being filmed. It's already been done. Blah blah blah blah. So there's no Shield, no origin story, no Bucky. Wasn't in the military, not fighting against Nazis, none of that shit. So everything that was Captain America that everybody loved about Captain America wasn't in the movie or in the serial, okay? So the story is that there's a bunch of murders of high-ranking like political figures and scientists, and the items such as the dynamic vibrator and the electronic firebolt have gone missing. Oh my God, that sounds something for the ladies. But yeah, these are some sort of like doomsday devices that are gone missing, and all the deaths that were all the people that found dead were left with like a small scarab like pendant to show that the scarab killed them. So DA Captain America goes out and fights the scarab, and it's fucking stupid. I didn't like it. I mean, it's if you put aside it being Captain America, it would be a decent cliffhanger serial that like Commander Cody and Green Hornet shit like that. It'd be cool like that, but it's Cap. I mean, so it just ruined it for me. So the guy who plays Cap, the actor, is Dick Purcell. Okay, and he was in a shit ton of like B movies back in like the 30s and the 40s and the 20s. Okay, and again, back in the day, you would get a contract with a movie house, and you would just make movies from that production house. So he did a bunch of Republic films. But there's a side note here that after the filming of the serial, I guess they filmed it really fast. So the actors were really rushed, and it was a really grueling time schedule. The guy drops dead a couple weeks after shooting. Okay, and the coroner says he died of like heart complications due to exertion. So him playing Captain America killed him. Man, talk about getting into your part. Damn, that sucks. So that's kind of a bummer. Okay, so now Sharon Carter isn't his love interest. Oh shit, dude. Yeah, Greg, go into the shelter, man. I'm definitely not worth dying over. Trust me. Get in the shelter, dude. Good luck. Let's know if you're okay. So Sharon Carter's not in this as his love interest. It's someone called Lauren Gray, and she's just like, you know, a layback. She's played by Gail Richards, and she was again another Republic Pictures, you know, stalwart that did a whole bunch of different movies and serials and stuff, but nothing of note. Now, the guy who plays the bad guy, the Dr. Maldor / the Scarab, his name was Lionel Atwell. And again, he's another, you know, character actor for the time for Republic, so he was in a shit ton of stuff. Now, this is kind of funny. There's some insights about this guy. This guy was in tons of shit, right? He'd been in silent films when fucking the whole industry started. But he ended up marrying the ex of Douglas MacArthur, like the general of World War II. I guess Douglas MacArthur just divorced this, you know, got divorced this chick, and this guy married her. So that's kind of interesting. And then also, he got blacklisted in Hollywood in his later years because he got busted holding big old orgies in Hollywood. Oh, this guy's fucking awesome. I love it. He's banging MacArthur's old lady, and he's having giant orgies in Hollywood. Damn, that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, he got blacklisted, but you know, fucking Hollywood. Bunch of hypocrites. But yeah, so that was the 1944 serial of Captain America, the first cinema incarnation of the Sentinel of Liberty. That's right, King parties. It's the way to go. You know it. All right, then we fast forward to 1973. Okay. Now, the next film is not called Captain America. It's called
Döndür şu maskeni çıkaralım. Hadi dön! Hırsız var. İkisi de bir haftadır aç. Şimdi onlara ziyafet çekeceğim. Bana ihanetin sonunu görün de ibret alın. Eğlence bitti, herkes yukarı.
Three Dead Adam. Okay, and let me tell you what this is. Three Dead Adam was a Turkish like ripoff movie of Captain America. Okay, so the Turkish film industry didn't give a fuck if they stole IPs or whatever they do. So what they did is they stole the IP of Captain America as the main character, and then his partner, second main character, they stole the famous superhero, wrestler superhero from Mexico, Santo. So you have Santo, the huge Mexican superhero wrestler of Mexico of that era, and then you have Captain America, and they team up to defeat Spider-Man and his evil minions. Yes, you heard that right, folks. Spider-Man, and he looks exactly like Peter Parker Spider-Man, but he's like a master villain, like swinging around, cutting people's heads off, fucking fighting, stealing shit. It is shit. The whole movie is just total shit, but it is hilarious because it's like, Spider-Man looks like Spider-Man, but he's like, he's like the evil genius monster bad guy. And Captain America and Santos are team. It's just like some guy just got a hold of some bad stuff and just decided to make a movie while I was high on it. It's incredible. If you get a chance to watch it, it's worth a once over because your jaw will be just and you'll just be like, what the hell am I watching? It's a great flick. Give it a try. It's called Three Dead Adam. Okay, don't know what the fuck that even means. It's a Turkish movie. If I've seen it, but I saw it in a subtitle, so it was it wasn't as fun. But I'm sure there's probably some sort of dub over somewhere out there. Okay, so now there is another live action movie in the 70s by Red Brown that we talked about, but it's a TV movie. Captain America there was a couple of them. There's Captain America.
Your father developed and perfected the ultimate steroid. He called it FLAG, full latent ability gain. He injected himself with the serum, and it worked.
A top-secret serum gave Steve Rogers superpowers. Now he can use them to save a city from a madman with a bomb.
Finished.
If he accepts the challenge.
Be Captain America, Steve.
Starring Len Berman, Heather Menzies, Steve Forrest, and Reb Brown as the star-spangled superhero Captain America.
Which aired in '79, and then there was Captain America 2, Death Too Soon.
In Captain America 2, the U.S. government calls on Steve Rogers to help uncover a sinister plot against the United States by one of the world's deadliest criminals.
Miguel? The revolutionary?
In his quest for world domination, this man plans on holding the United States hostage.
Yeah. In 2 days, we'll have enough of Wilson's aging compound to affect that entire city.
He's demanding $1 billion immediately. Or he'll spread a chemical through a major American city, a chemical that will cause rapid aging.
This is a job for Captain America. Reb Brown, Christopher Lee, Connie Selica, and Len Berman star in this high-flying action-adventure tale as America's greatest hero battles against overwhelming odds in Captain America 2, Death Too Soon.
Which was later on in that same year. And again, it was starred Reb Brown. Now, guys, I don't know if you know who Reb Brown is. He's this kind of beefcake, good-looking, kind of surfer-looking beefcake, athlete-looking guy. And he's been in a whole bunch of just cheesy ass fucking movies. Space Mutiny being a big one because MST did a Rift episode on it, and he's just in a bunch of shit. Not the best actor, but it's all fun. But now, in this incarnation of Captain America, again, has nothing to do with fucking the comics. Okay, he's like an ex like Vietnam vet, and he's driving around. And well, they do get one thing right, I have to admit, because again, I'm a huge Cap fan. So in the 70s, Cap's after the 60s, after his rebirth, in the 70s, Caps is kind of driving around the country in this van. Everybody's in their fucking vans, right? Cap's driving around the country, trying to fucking find himself, because he's feeling that, guy out of his own time. He's a product of the 30s and 40s, and he's now in the 60s, 70s. So there's a big culture shock there. But he's he's driving around the country in his van and on his motorcycle. And he's experiencing the American life, the racism and the war, anti-war, and crime and drugs and all that shit. So it's kind of his device to get around and just them talk about all the topics of the day. But in this one, they get that right. In this one, Cap is driving around in his van, going into adventures and whatnot. It's pretty cheesy, guys. It's if you ever watched the Shazam, I think it was called Shazam. It's Captain Marvel, but the Shazam show of the 70s, it's just like that. It's really cheesy, low budget, has really nothing to do with the character other than but this one he does have a shield, but he wears like a fucking motorcycle helmet. But I mean, he's big beefcake, and he throws the shield around like Cap does, knocking people out and stuff. So it was reaching. They were almost there, but they didn't quite get there. The cheese got too powerful, and they weren't able to stick with Cap how he should be. But it's worth noting those two movies. Guess Reb Brown does a good job in it. So if you come across it, give it a look. It's pretty funny. Okay, so then we fast forward couple decades. Okay, in 1990, we get the first real Captain America theatrical movie.
Where'd you get your guinea pig?
Happens to be the best damn candidate out of 600 volunteers.
A secret experiment gave one man the strength of 100.
For the rest of the world, he's just codenamed Captain America.
And the power to save millions.
The Jerrys have an experimental rocket ready to fire at a target somewhere in the United States.
Only he could defeat a superhuman madman.
They got a fella called the Red Skull heading up their outfit.
But saving the world left him trapped in an icy grave until fate released him to finish a battle started decades ago. Ronnie Cox, Kim Gillingham, Scott Paulin as the Red Skull, and Matt Salinger as the Marvel Comics hero, Captain America.
First Pictures, I think 21st Century Pictures gets a hold of the current one, or this rendition of it. And you probably hear the producer's name. It's the guy who started Canon Pictures. So what is his damn name? Golan, Menheim Golan. So yeah, he produced this thing, and I think I'm trying to find who did it? I can't remember what production company made it. But they make this thing, right, in intent to make a theatrical film, but everything goes to shit, and it ends up going straight to video. So it didn't ever make it to the theaters. It went right to video. Now, let's tell you about the story here. Okay, again, they almost get there. They almost follow the story. You have an origin story. It's pretty close to the origin of Cap. He's a soldier in World War II. He gets, super soldier shield room, Some of the names are changed, the scientists or whatever. And he fights the Red Skull. So this is where it just turns tits up, okay? The Red Skull, which by Johann Schmidt, is the Red Skull, okay? That's the Red Skull. In this movie, it's not even him. His name is DeSantis, and he's Italian, okay? So the Red Skull is not a fascist Nazi. He's a fascist Italian, okay? So that just sucks right there. I mean, sorry. I mean, I don't mean to be dogging on Italians and their fascism, but I mean, Captain America was meant to fight Nazis. I mean, that's the whole fucking thing. He is the anti-Nazi. So if you have Cap in World War II not fighting Nazis, it's just fucking stupid, okay? But anyway, they kind of get the origin right in the movie. There is like a rocket that's going to shoot off, and Bucky's nowhere. He's not even in the fucking show. Carter's not in the show. You know, a lot of the, you know, Cap didn't have a lot of supporting characters. I mean, he had the All Winners. You know, you had Submariner, Namor, Submariner. You had Human Torch, Toro. You know, Bucky, the Boy Commandos. You know, you had a lot of that shit in the comics, but you never saw any of those people in the movies or the serials or anything like that. But so it kind of happens that way. The rocket shoots off and Cap's there, and you know, fucking gets frozen. In the future, you know, he wakes up and it's 1990, and things are different. And anyway, the story sucks. It just sucks. It's a shitty movie. They were kind of getting close to following the line. And there's some good snippets of it where like Cap is like picked up by this guy, and he's like picks him up in like a Toyota truck, and then like, you know, or no, he's like and he sees a Mercedes drive by, and then there's a Sanyo, you know, like a Sony cassette deck, and he's like, you know, you're a Nazi, or you're, you know, the Axis must have won because everybody's driving, you know, German cars and Japanese cars and products and all this shit. That's a cool scene. It's kind of like, what's going on? He doesn't know what's going on. But the rest of the story fucking sucks. Don't even bother watching it. But it was okay. So one cool thing about it is that the director, Albert Penn, okay, now you probably have never heard of this motherfucker. Okay, never. Unless you're a B-movie fan. If you're a B-movie fan, you know who this guy is. This guy's fucking heavyweight, okay? Now, I'm a huge B-movie fan, so I love this motherfucker. And this guy did some crazy stuff. Let me go through it and give you some of the great movies that this guy made. The Sword and the Sorcerer. Not the animated Disney bullshit, but the barbarian sword and sorcery movie from the 82. Great movie. Radioactive Dreams. Not so good. That's all right. Cyborg, the Van Damme movie. That's like Van Damme's first thing, really. He did that one. He did Brain Smasher, A Love Story. That's a great movie. That's Andrew Dice Clay. That's a funny movie. Road to Hell. That was a good movie. I enjoyed that one. But yeah, so in other words, the director of Captain America is just a B-movie director who did a whole bunch of cool B-movies. The writer, Stephen Tolkien, didn't do shit. So don't even fucking look him up. He didn't do jack. Okay? All right, guys. So then we fast forward to 2011, and we get Captain America, the First Avenger.
Rogers, Steven.
Just give me a chance.
Sorry, son.
I'm saving your life.
General Patton has said that wars are fought with weapons, but they are won by men.
You just don't know when to give up, do you? I could do this all day.
Our goal is to create the greatest army in history.
I should be going with you. Look, I know you don't think I can do this.
This isn't a back alley, Steve. It's war.
But every army begins with one man.
5 tries in 5 different cities. I can offer you a chance.
He will be the first in a new breed A super soldier.
Why me? Because the weak men lose the value of strength, lose the value of power.
That wasn't so bad.
That was penicillin.
We are going to win this war because we have the best men.
Now, Mr. Stark.
Nay, will personally escort Adolf Hitler to the gates of hell.
How do you feel?
It's all right. Your task won't be simple.
Who the hell are you? The first of many.
Your enemy is not what you expect.
I don't know if I can do this.
This is why you were chosen.
What do you think?
I think it works.
All right, now you got money in this bad boy. Disney, I don't even know. This is pre-Disney, wasn't it? But huge blockbuster flick. Now I have how should I say this? I enjoy. They got Captain America right. Okay, the Steve Rogers that is depicted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is who Steve Rogers was in the comic books. He's a man of character and honor, and he has a moral fiber. He's patriotic. He's caring. They got him. I mean, it's spot on. The character, his origin is pretty close. They got it pretty. Bucky's all fucked up. The character Bucky is fucked. Now, the reason why is because that Bucky is Brubaker and Epting's version when they reincarnated the new incarnation of Cap, I think in the 2000s, which is fantastic. They basically bring Captain into the modern era, and they change up some stuff. But Bucky ends up being the Winter Soldier, so for them to work that into the new narrative, they had to change Bucky's character. Okay, so we're getting ahead of ourselves there. Okay, so again, Cap's character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie is exactly who Captain America is. So if you don't know who Captain America is in the comics, or even in the 1940s, that is Captain America. Chris Evans does an excellent job portraying Captain America. I was skeptical at first, but the guy was fantastic. Had tears at times coming down. He's so good at it. Okay. Now, Sharon Carter. She wasn't in the Golden Age shit. Well, was she? She might have been. I think Sharon Carter was kind of the 60s. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But she's okay character. I mean, whatever. Strong woman. You got to have that shit in all your movies now, which is fine. I don't give a shit. But Chris Evans does a great job as Cap. Now, Hugo Weaving does a great Red Skull. I think he did a good job. Red Skull looks cool. Red Skull that you see in the movie is the Red Skull of the comics. Okay. Originally, although Red Skull was a staunch Nazi, it wasn't about, National Socialism. It was about the Red Skull. He had always been about himself and whatever he could do to become the biggest power, okay, to get the most power. Because, I mean, even if Germany won, he would have overthrown Hitler somehow, and so he didn't give a shit about Hitler or the Nazis. He was just using that as a platform to gain his power, to gain his prestige, and to move forward. So they did a good character. They did a good job with that. Bucky's all fucked up in the again, in the story, in the comics. Bucky's a kid. He's probably like 13, 14, maybe. So, you know, the character. But Sebastian Stan does a great Winter Soldier. He does a good, like, modern day reincarnation of Bucky. They stayed pretty true to what Epting and Brubaker wrote and Epting drew. Pretty spot on what Sebastian Stan did. Now, this is the stuff I don't like about the movie. I mean, the movie is great. You know, the effects are fantastic. The story is a good story, right? But it's not Captain America. And let me tell you why. Cap is not fucking fighting Nazis. Okay? In this PC bullshit fucking environment that we're in, you cannot have the quintessential anti-Nazi, which is Captain America, fighting against Nazis. So what they did is they threw in Hydra instead. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Hydra, guys. Back in the day, I was a huge Hydra fan. I had every issue, every appearance of Hydra. Okay. Again, everybody thought it was stupid or whatever. That was the suspense stuff with Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. when he was fighting Hydra. All the Captain America issues. Was it Captain Savage and his Leatherneck Commandos? All the appearances of Hydra and that. So I know this shit. I ain't fucking around. Hydra wasn't even in Europe during World War II. Okay? Unless it's been retconned in the current writing. And I don't collect comics anymore because it just turned to shit. I think comics are shit now. But Hydra wasn't even in Europe. Baron von Strucker was sent to Asia to infiltrate the Hand, if you guys know who the Hand is, to use them as the core for Hydra. And then when they were established in Asia, they were going to come, Red Skull was going to take over it, and they're going to do their world domination bullshit, right? Well, the Samurai Squad and Captain Savage and his Leatherneck Commandos teamed up, a USMC group, or U.S. Navy group, and Japanese teamed up to destroy Hydra, and Hydra was fucked. Destroyed it completely. Baron von Strucker survived, and he went back to Europe and became a Nazi again or whatever. So Hydra was, so in the comics, Hydra wasn't even fucking in Europe. Okay, wasn't even there. All right. Now I understand why they did it. I understand the mechanisms. You got to have Nazis without having Nazis. Okay, so Hydra's the perfect device for that. But it lost me. I fucking didn't like the movie because of that. Because again, Captain America was created to fight the Nazis. He's anti-Nazi. He's everything a Nazi would never be. Okay, so that's why he was the perfect, hero, because he would fight against them, and it was just, but the fucking asshole PC bullshit in the studio, they decided against it, whatever. But most people don't care because most people were coming into this whole Marvel universe for the first time through the movies. And that's great. I'm not bashing people who don't know anything about the comics. That's fine. But in my personal opinion, it destroyed the movie for me. It just, again, Chris Evans, great Cap. Hugo Weaving did a great Red Skull. Again, the production values were great and whatever. Now, and then they fucked the rest of it up. Like, Bucky's death was to coincide with Brubaker's reviving of the Bucky as the Winter Soldier, which that's fine, whatever. And then you have the Howling Commandos. Okay, so again, they fucked that thing up too. The Howling Commandos were not just some POWs that were all mixed with people, and they were just okay. Listen, I mean, and that's another thing. So they fucked up Nick Fury. Now listen, I love Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Okay, it's a great character. He comes from a Nick Fury from the Ultimates storyline. The Ultimates was like the Avengers rebooted in the 2000s in a whole different Marvel canon, a whole different Marvel universe. And Nick Fury was a black man, okay, that was around from Vietnam, I think it was, or or wherever. Okay. And Samuel L. Jackson plays that Nick Fury perfectly. And in fact, I think Brian Finch did that. He looks, the character in the Ultimates looks just like him. So, I mean, they probably was doing that to get him in line if they ever did movies. But fantastic Nick Fury, but it's not fucking Nicholas Fury from World War II, the sergeant from World War II in the Howling Commandos. You know, the first, the Howling Commandos have an actual, designation. I think it was, the first special commando team or some shit like that. Anyway, so the whole thing, the Howling Commandos are part of Captain's crew. That's fuck no. Captain America worked alone, or with the All Winners, or the reincarnation of the All Winners in the 70s would be the Invaders. But anyway, so again, they fucked up the characters. I mean, they didn't even use all the characters right. They had Dum Dum Dugan right, and that was about it. The other people, I don't even know who the fuck they were. You know, but anyway. So just those little things. The supporting characters were all off. So it was a really mixed bag for me. I mean, I went to the theater. I was all pumped to see it. It started off great, you know, minus Bucky. And then it just went downhill. I just couldn't get past it. It's just fucking fighting Hydra. It's like, where did this Hydra army come from? How is a Hydra army even around? I mean, there's Nazis fighting and... Anyway, it doesn't even make any goddamn sense. But anyway, I get it. PC bullshit. You got to have a non-Nazi Nazi in your fucking movies so you can show it in the world. Whatever. It's just fucking losers. But anyway, okay, so let's jump into the particulars of the movie. So it's directed by Joe Johnston. Now, he's directed some kick-ass shit, too. He did The Rocketeer, which is we talked about that before. Great movie. I love The Rocketeer. I think his first movie was Honey, I Shrunk the Kid. That was a great movie. I was big into that. He did Jumanji. That's a good flick. And he also did some other big budget stuff, but that's kind of like the stuff that I like at least. Now, he also worked as a visual effects director, okay? And he worked he was in all the original Star Wars movies. He was like the FX director. And he was in all the Indiana Jones flicks. He was in all of Lucas's and Spielberg's productions. So guy's definitely got some talent and experience. Now the writers were Chris Marcus and Stephen McFeely. You know, I'm pretty spot on writers and stuff because I'm kind of a movie file and I'm into like that kind of stuff, and I didn't recognize these guys, but these guys wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, all those movies. They did Thor, the second Thor. They did all the Cap movies. They did the first Guardian of the Galaxy movie, and they did the other Avenger movie, the second and the third Avenger movie. So these guys are pretty badass. I mean, they were good writers. I give them that. They fucked up this anyway. I'm sure they were given, guidelines of what they could and couldn't do. So I get it, but yeah. So that's about it, guys, that I have for the Captain America movies. I know there's a bunch of them. I didn't go on to the second Captain America Civil War because it's like we're trying to stick in the weird World War II genre and the narrative. So that's why these are pretty much where we're going to stop, because these movies tended to show the origin of Cap, which had been World War II, and then or they were placed in that same time frame. So and that was a lot of ranting right there, wasn't it? Look, I'm gonna jump in here and check out these messages real quick, see if no one was giving out winning lotto numbers here. Let me check it out. Hope you're okay, Greg. Gabagool. Hell yeah, dude. The van. I'll go, dude, guys. Captain America's van was badass. He had his motorcycle. Captain America was always a big motorcycle guy. So he had this Harley Davidson in his motorcycle, and he would travel the country and find himself and shit and fall into adventures. And that's where he met Falcon. See, Falcon was like a brother of the street. superhero, fighting for, the rights of the common folk in the ghettos and stuff like that, right? And that's where Cap met him, right? And they became really good friends, and that was awesome. See, that's the fucking Falcon that I wanted to see in the movie. I wanted to see, like this guy who was like trying to protect his neighborhood, and kind of like Luke Cage or whatever. They kind of showed that in the Luke Cage TV show. Sam Wilson was the same way. He wasn't he wasn't like a federal agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of that bullshit. He was like a guy. Cap met him on a fucking, if I remember correctly, Cap met him on an island where like these ex-Nazi guys were hunting people for sport. And Sam Wilson was there with Red Wing, which is his eagle, or falcon, I guess, not eagle. Duh. But that's where they met, and then they just kind of hooked up, and they traveled and did adventures and shit together. So it was pretty cool. It's funny. There was this one scene. This is kind of out of the blue, but there was a mini series of Captain America and the Punisher. Okay. And I don't know if you guys know the real origin of the Punisher. The Punisher was like a captain in Vietnam. And, he comes home and his family's murdered by a gang shooting, like a gangster, hit, and they get killed, and he starts his war on crime. Okay. Well, so he was like a fucking Marine. The Punisher was a Marine in Vietnam. And they're at the end of it, they have this big adventure together. Read this book, it's fantastic. At the very end, after they have their adventure and they do all their shit, because they're divergent person. So for them to even be teamed up together is pretty, it has to be dire circumstances for them to be together. But at the very end, okay, now before I get to it, in the 70s during Vietnam, and in the 60s during Vietnam, Cap did not ever go to Vietnam. He never, Captain America is an actual commissioned officer in the United States Army, and he's a captain in the United States Army, but he never went to Vietnam. When he was thawed out, he didn't go to Vietnam. He wasn't there. He was there once. There was one issue of Cap where he was fighting against, I think it was like the Yellow Fang, which is just like an Oriental, like a evil. I think he's a Chinese evil villain, but he was in Vietnam, and Cap had to go to Vietnam, and that was it. There was no of the conflict. They didn't talk about it, whatever. They would talk about the anti-Vietnam movement in the comics, but they wouldn't talk about the soldiers over there. But at the end of this book, this limited series, it's raining, and Captain America is he's sitting in front of the tomb of the unknown soldier, right? He's just kind of standing there all wet, and behind him, Frank Castle comes up, and he says, we could have used someone like you in Nam, because all the bullshit, all the political bullshit, all the insanity in the fucking Vietnamese, South Vietnamese government and the Vietnam nation of the fucking people, all the political bullshit, the soldiers are still there fighting, right? And they didn't know what the fuck they're fighting for. They lost, heart for it. And, it's really poignant and a powerful scene. It's a really powerful scene, and it just cuts through all the political bullshit, and all it is two soldiers sitting there, and one of them says, breaks down and says, "Listen, we could have used your help." And then Cap doesn't. He's in shame. He feels shame because during that time, he just kind of finding himself in the country. He was just absent. And so he sits up and he turns, and the Punisher's walking off, right? And he goes, Captain Castle. And Punisher turns around, and Captain America's saluting him, and it's just a really powerful scene, man. I'm getting all choked up. It's just, that's Captain America, dude. That was Captain America. And he's better than all of us. He is a moral fiber that no one can fucking match, and he's just a fantastic character. You don't have to be jingoistic. He's not America, is the greatest, and we need to destroy everybody who's not like it. None of that bullshit. He is just what we should all, try to achieve to be. He's a good person. He wants to help. He's not trying to. Anyway, it's just he's a great character, and it's just heartbreaking sometimes. And again, I was really invested in this character for a long time, and I sold my collection. I had all of it. I had most of the Captain America comics from the 40s. I had all the Tales of Suspense. I had, all the Captain America. I have all the, I had it all, man. And I, when I got divorced and things were rough, I had to sell all my stuff. But yeah, Cap's a great character. Go back if you get a chance. Go back, read some of the Golden Age stuff. It's a little cheesy, but if you can just follow his progression, I would say. I mean, even the new reincarnation of Cap in the 2000s is pretty good. It's just he's just a little more modern. I'm actually in one of his comics, guys. I can't remember what issue that is, but I'm in one of the letters, one of the people like the fan letters in the back of the comic. So I'm actually in an episode or in an issue of Captain America. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, so that's enough about Cap. Okay, if you get a chance, read that Punisher and Captain America comic. I can't remember. I have it. It's in a box. I don't know where it's at. But yeah, I'll try to find the name of it and put it in the description. Definitely worth a buy. Definitely worth a read. All right, guys. So the gaming for tonight. Okay, damn, look at that. I almost talked a full hour about fucking Captain America. Okay, so tonight we're talking about tank hunters. Shit. World War II is the first conflict that really had armored vehicles, like a bunch, roaming around the battlefields, right? And they're not these big hulking beasts like in World War I that would get stuck, on a fucking log. These things were like platoons and companies of these were maneuvering, outmaneuvering positions and overrunning, infantry positions and attacking, command headquarters and stuff. So, the idea of a tank hunter became prevalent and needed in World War II. Well, okay, yeah. So Eric says the M18 Hellcat. Yeah, that's a anti-tank. That's a tank hunter tank. I'm talking about infantry based. Okay, and we'll get into tank destroyers is what they would call them. Tank destroyer. We'll get into that too. But first, I want to start off with infantry. Okay, so in the early war, the only really thing they had to go against tanks were cannons, like the anti-tank guns that the infantry would roll up. The most common tank gun of the day. The most common tank gun of the day was like the 37 millimeter, or maybe the 40 millimeter. And then you had some howitzers, but the howitzers didn't give enough penetration power. So it wasn't until like 40, 41 when you started having dedicated tank weaponry. Now, as Eric had mentioned, they had anti-tank rifles of the day. Now, anti-tank rifles are basically long barrel, usually bolt action rifles that would shoot like a heavy armor-piercing round. It's usually later on they were tungsten rounds, but that shit was expensive. Those tungsten ones. And then as armor would increase as the years went by, anti-tank rifles just went to shit, right? So now the Soviets kept them forever. They just had hundreds of them, tons and tons of them. So they used them throughout the whole fucking war. Just throw them out there. Use them as sniper rifles. Use them anti-material rifles. Use them as shoot the tanks, whatever. But most of the other nations, like the Brits, got rid of the Boys rifle. The Americans didn't really ever have a dedicated anti-tank rifle. The Germans had a couple, and they ended up turning those into a rocket launcher. Or rocket grenade launchers or grenade launchers. They would have they put the grenade cup on the end of it and shoot grenade rounds with them, rifle grenade rounds. But the Soviets kept the anti-tank rifle for a long time. But in the early war, they worked well because tanks of the time in the early wars were really thin. So even if they couldn't get through the frontal armor, they could hit the sides. They could penetrate the sides easily. As the time went by, these rifles would still be used against armor, but what they would do is they would target vision blocks and gun optics, cupolas, road wheels, track, shit like that to either reduce the sensory capability of the vehicle with like the vision blocks and shit like that, and or detrack it. It could possibly destroy road wheels. If you don't have road wheels on a tank, there's some fucking problems there. But the tank track starts to get loose and it detracts and whatever. So anti-tank rifles were popular and useful in the beginning of the war, but then as it progressed, it was kind of outphased. So now, when infantry were with modern early war infantry were starting to get overrun by these armored vehicles, right? And they didn't have dedicated like late war. You had like rocket launchers, and you got heat rounds, and whatever, and you got like big tank tank destroyer tanks. But so a lot of these anti-tank devices were just kind of ad hoc. They would tape together a bunch of grenades, or they would use satchel charges or explosives or Molotov cocktails, just kind of some sort of handheld of explosive to engage in these vehicles. Now, that's another thing. So tanks are not these impervious beasts that everyone thinks, okay? In fact, if you guys ever go to the Chieftain YouTube channel, he goes inside these tanks, all these and it's a fucking nightmare. I would not want to be in a World War II tank, no matter what tank it was. It's frightening. But because if you get close enough, you can jack up a tank. With very little. A Molotov cocktail to the fuel or to the engine deck, it's fucked. It's not like the flames aren't going to penetrate the armor, but what happens is that napalm mixture drips into the engine, and it just burns up the engine. And guess what? Your tank's on fire, first of all, and then your engine's destroyed. So it's immobile. Your turret can still spin around, and because you have a manual. If the hydraulics go out, you have a manual, But then if you got infantry swarming on your tank, they can start, breaking your optics, your vision blocks. You can't see out of it. A lot of tanks, they had slits. Some tanks didn't even have bulletproof glass in front of the slits in their armor. So, the classic scene where, Sergeant Rock jumps on the side of the tank and sticks his Thompson in there and just shoots inside. It's not unfounded. It really isn't. Okay, I'm getting off topic here. Let's stick with tank hunters. Okay, so because tanks were starting to overrun and outmaneuver positions, infantry had to be trained to actively repulse these attacks. And they would use what they had at the hand, grenades and explosives or Molotovs or whatever they could do. So tactics were actually devised in how to do this. Now, there are some really famous World War II training films, German training films, that show this in action. And and I've talked about this before. I think it's called Tank versus Man, or Infantry versus Tank, or something like that. And it's simulating a Russian assault, tank assault in this trench system. And these guys are climbing out, and they're using like teller. They're using mines. And the teller mine is a great device because you can put different kind of fuses in it. You could put a friction fuse that had like a timer on it. There could be, the compression, the contact fuse. If it, hits, if something runs over it, it blows up, whatever. So there's different kind of fuses for that device. And then they came out with the heat mine, the magnetic mines became popular. The whole chemical round, the whole heat idea, high explosive anti-tank became, prevalent because it's like now we don't need these large caliber, super penetrating rounds because we can have this cone shaped warhead that we can deploy and it could cause fucking havoc. And by a guy holding it and sticking it onto a tank and running off. So just the idea of being infantry running up to an armored vehicle, right, and using some sort of handheld weapon to either incapacitate it or to destroy it is fucking frightening, right? Because shit, you're in a trench. You got a couple Molotov cocktails, right? And there's a tank, driving by it. Just imagine there's a king. Let's say there's a King Tiger driving by it, and you're you need to fucking do something. So, you getting up out of the your hiding place, getting up, running towards this giant beast and throwing these fucking firebombs at it is frightening. So, in your gaming, when infantry do engage in against enemy especially armored vehicles, now it'd be different if it's like a fucking Jeep or a truck, right? Because you can just shoot through that shit. You can just hose a truck. It doesn't matter, how big it is. Fucking truck isn't gonna it ain't gonna be anything great. But so in your gaming, you need to have some sort of mechanic that, first of all, enemy vehicles should cause some sort of check, some sort of morale check or something, leadership check or whatever it might be, whatever system you use, because your troops. It's not just they're not just going to sit there and wait for a tank to come at it. They're either going to have to be dedicated to do it with a role, like, okay, I'm ready, I'm trained, I got the morale, I'm going to do it, or they're going to fuck this, I'm out of here, I'm going to run for better cover. Let the armor, let my tanks deal with it. But yeah, so you should have some sort of mechanic where enemy armor. I'm not talking about like trucks and shit. That don't fucking matter. But anything that's armored with a gun on it should have some sort of a mechanic that causes your troops to roll against it. Okay, at a certain range. Now, if they do pass it, they should be allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. Right? Run up to it, attack it, or whatever. With that, and then that fear device is no longer applying to them for the remainder of the battle. Now, if they fail, more than likely they'll either stay. If they're in cover, they'll probably stay there, like hidden, or they'll run off. Handheld weapons. So, in the game mechanics, most people play. Your intent is to destroy the tank, right? Well, you don't have to. A lot of these, you can disable the tank. You can, cause fires. You can even like destroy optics. That's one thing that I like to do. A lot of people don't play this, but like we use machine guns to like destroy optics, like gun sights, driver's optics, and whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe tanks usually had a second set of gun optics, and they had several vision block optics that they could replace inside the vehicle. But the thing is for them to do that, it would take time. Maybe they lose a couple turns, but at that time, that's when your infantry could swarm on these vehicles because they can't see what's going on. So that's another reason why in tanks, if you're the tank guys, you need infantry screening your tanks, man, because if enemy infantry get close to your tanks, they're fucked. Because it doesn't take much to incapacitate a tank. You don't have to penetrate its armor. All you got to do is catch its engine on fire, and it's done. So think about that in your gaming. I mean, if you're making your own rules, if you got if you got a set of rules that you really like that don't have anything like that, think about it. cause tanks to, if they catch on fire, it's going to cause the crew to freak out. They're going to have to make tests because their vehicle's on fire. If they jump out, guess what? There's a bunch of enemy infantry all around. They just hose them down. So that's that. Now, so let's continue. So as the war developed, tanks got thicker armor, right? And again, they're being so mobile, the infantry needed some sort of weaponry to repel these instant tank sightings, right? So the Germans created the Panzerfaust, okay? Which is it's a fantastic weapon. It's hard as fuck to hit with. Doesn't have the greatest range, right? But if it does hit, it'll fuck it up. That's right. Eric mentions that infantry were trained to stick like logs in the sprockets to try to detract the tank, stuff like that. I mean, you could do something that it doesn't have to be a penetrating hit that causes the tank's destruction. And in fact, I would say unless they have dedicated anti-tank weaponry, I would say it would be completely either vehicle track or vehicle engine on fire or detrack of some way. So, if you don't, so in your mechanics, in your game, if you have troops that don't have anti-tank grenades, you didn't pay the points, fuck that, have them throw a rifle in the sprocket or, whatever it might be, give your gaming the ability for your soldiers to think out of the box and disable these kind of vehicles. Okay, yeah, so BizBum comes up with a good, we'll get to that too. We'll get into the defenses that tanks used against infantry attack. So back to the infantry. So they started to get dedicated anti-tank weaponry. So the Germans came out with the Panzerfaust, and then special rifle grenades were created. Heat rifle grenades were created. So they'd have that. They don't need a fucking turbo penetrator to penetrate the armor because they have this chemical round that allow it to just shoot a rifle grenade and cause that same effect. So you have, that's one thing I dislike about a lot of wargaming rules is that the lack of rifle grenades. I mean, they're prolific in every fucking army. Every army had a rifle grenadier or two. They had different kinds of rounds, and it's this oversimplification that just, I don't know. I think you should, if these armies had them in their inventory, you should be able to fucking use them in your gaming. But anyway, so rifle grenades with heat rounds, Panzerfaust, Molotov cocktails was always a big one. Handheld explosives, engineering explosives, stuff like that. And then the Americans came up with the bazooka. Now, that's what is it, a 7-inch rocket? And when the Germans discovered some of those in North Africa, they copied it. Of course, bigger and better. They came out with the Panzer Schreck. So now you've got these dedicated infantry, based weapons that can sneak around and hide behind walls and be in trees and in a bush or whatever the fuck. And then all of a sudden you got this rocket that could destroy almost anything on the battlefield. Okay. So guess what? Tanks start freaking the fuck out. So like Richard was talking about is that what you have is you start to have tanks giving defensive abilities. Okay. So one of the things the Germans had, I can't even pronounce it, but it's called close-in support weapon, I think is what it's called. But it's basically a flare gun that the handle's in the turret, and it just spins on the inside of the turret, and it shoots out different kind of rounds. Now, the Germans didn't have dedicated early war. They had exterior grenade launchers that would shoot out smoke grenades to cause a smoke field. But later in the war, they took those off and they used this little this device that could shoot smoke grenades. But one of the rounds they had is it shot out. I think it was a high explosive round, and it detonated after 2 seconds. Once it was shot, it would shoot up and it'd explode above the tank, and it would shoot down shrapnel on top of the tank. And that was used for when enemy infantry were crawling around your tank, you would use that device and shoot it and blow it up above them and hopefully kill them or incapacitate them or whatever. And they also had pistol ports. Pistol ports were put in tanks. It's basically a plug in the armor. You pull it out and you pull your either a pistol or submachine gun in there, and you start shooting through the hole. Very limited fire arcs, but again, you could do it. You know, they had grenades. You know, open the hatch real quick and throw a grenade on the whatever. So, also, like the Germans had that anti-magnetic paste called Zimmerit, and what that was meant to be used for is they were worried that the Soviets were going to use magnetic mines like they did against their tanks. And what this paste would do, it would have a layer of this like ceramic layer on the outside of the tank where magnetic weaponry couldn't like affix itself and it just fall off. But the Soviets didn't really use a lot of magnetic mines, so it just made their tanks look cool. So whatever. But and then tank tactics were devolved. You know, like tanks would shoot at each other with their machine guns to get off infantry on their vehicles and shit like that. But the biggest defense against enemy infantry on your tanks is fucking friendly infantry. That's why you've got to have that cooperation between your armor forces and your infantry, because tanks in you know built up terrain are fucked if they don't have that support. Now, let's get off the handheld infantry stuff, okay? And again, in your mechanics, I think you need to have some sort of device where tanks cause some sort of terror, fear, whatever it might be, morale check, leadership check, whatever it is. If they pass that, they can pretty much act however they want, run up to the tank. Again, you know, some games, you know, allow even troops that don't have dedicated anti-tank weaponry to cause harm to an armored vehicle or any vehicle. I think that's fair. They can. I mean, if you want to come up with the details of that in your own system, do so. But definitely allow infantry to cause. It doesn't have to be a penetrating, you know, destructive effect, but some mobilization would be, you know, definitely a factor for something like that. Now, then we get into like anti-tank teams, like cannons. You know, like the movable cannons, the towing cannons, of varying degrees. You know, at first it was 37 millimeter was kind of the general, and then it was like 50, and then they got up to like 75. So the cannons would get bigger and bigger. I shouldn't say cannons; they're guns. Get bigger and bigger to go against these larger and larger, thicker armored vehicles. Now, again, the reason they even did that is because you can mass produce, you know, guns opposed to sticking guns onto armored vehicles with all this armor and all that shit. It's easier to just mass produce a bunch of guns, throw some dudes behind the gun, saturate the battlefield with these guns instead of having like armored vehicles that are holding these guns. So it was a fast, cheap way to get anti-tank elements onto the battlefield. Now, of course, it definitely got their drawbacks. The maneuverability of them are for shit. The protection for the crews are for shit. So that's why I had so many of them. You just have them layer in a deep defense, and they would just try to cover each other. And the infantry had to get all involved to protect them. But so it's a mess. But that's one way to take out the tanks. Now, then the country started doing dedicated tank destroyers. Now, a lot of people, they think about tank destroyers. They think, oh, they have these giant, you know, Jagd Tigers and shit. No, dude. So the Germans wanted these big, giant, heavy-ass fucking anti-tank tanks, right? Panzerjägers is what they call them. But the Allies came up with I think, a better idea. Tanks with big guns, right? But thin armor, but highly maneuverable. So cheaper to make. You can have more of them. They can move around faster. And the idea, and then the guns they have on them are pretty much going to take out whatever they hit. So again, numbers annihilate. You know, that's the Soviets' motto. It's with the Americans too. You can have as much armor as you want, but if you got 15 tank destroyers shooting at a platoon of Tigers, that fire and the maneuverability that's gonna get around them, and it's just gonna ting them until they pop. So the tank destroyer idea became light armor, maneuverability with a big gun, not so much crew protection. Some were open topped, Some weren't even like, some were just static in the hull. They didn't even have turrets. So, the cheaper that you can get a tank out with the gun that could do the business, the better than armoring up, making it into a tank. So that, that kind of changed the description of armored vehicles. Some are tank destroyers, some are assault guns, some are main battle tanks, some are light tanks, and it's just fucking, it's crazy. It gets pretty convoluted. But yeah, so lots of options for anti-tank. You can even get to, the suicide idea of the anti-tank crews. So you would like the Japanese and their desperation fighting on the islands, a guy just running up with an artillery shell, running up and slamming it against the tank with a ball peen hammer. Or they have those lunge mines where it's just like, it's on a giant like bamboo pole. There's like a heat mine on the other end. They just run up to it and they hit a tank and it blows up. They're fucking dead. They're dead. They ain't gonna survive that. But again, effective. They were even like I was saying, some suicide anti-tank units would be in like spider holes, right? A tank would come by and they would just hit an aerial bomb, like a fucking airplane bomb that they had in the pit with them, and blow themselves up in the tank and all that shit. So you can get as crazy as that, guys. You can have your suicide squads, just strap on explosives. The Soviets had the anti-tank dogs. They trained dogs to so they had these dogs that they would train that their food, they were given food underneath vehicles, like a tank, right? So these dogs were trained to go towards these vehicles because they think they would eat. They'd starve these dogs for a few days, and they'd take them out to the front, and they'd let them loose, and then all the dogs would run towards, the tanks, thinking they were going to get fed, and on their backs, they had this, little lever, and when the lever hit the tank, it would explode, kill the dog, kill the tank, whatever. Now, that wasn't as cool as that is, and weird and twisted as shit that is. It wasn't very successful. They would run towards Russian vehicles as well. So... And in fact, I believe the Germans had standing orders during Operation Barbarossa to shoot every fucking dog they came across. So that's one way to get rid of that idea too. That was like a desperation move by the Soviets when the Germans were just piling through their country. But there's all sorts of anti-tank. And then if you get into the weird guys, you can get all crazy. You can get, you can have your suicide bombers. You can have the Germans at the end of the war. They developed the first anti-tank guided missile, the X7, the Little Red Riding Hood. That's what it was called. Fucking weird name, but yeah, it was like. So just imagine fast forwarding, was it the Yom Kippur War when the Egyptians were using the Sagar missiles against the Israelis? Just imagine if you had that kind of level of anti-tank guided missiles in World War II. So all of a sudden you've got Germans with this X7 anti-tank guided missile fighting against Soviet invasion, these huge columns of tanks coming at them. They have all these fucking, missiles shooting out and knocking them out. So that's cool. The X7, it was the initial setup. It was like on the frame of like a pack, and it would shoot off. But then they had if you got even more tech, you could put it folded up like a Sagar or some shit like that. So that'd be kind of cool for your weird war. There's several companies that make. I think Dust did an X7, and I think there was another company that did it in 20 millimeter, and they look fucking cool. They look really cool. But you can just scratch build a fucking anti-tank guided missile. Two-man team, one with a box in his hand, and then some sort of missile on a tripod or some shit. So you can go crazy on that. And then you can come up with all sorts of we have Tesla weapons in our gaming, and these are great because you don't have to penetrate the tank. These Tesla weapons just fry the crew. They just fry them. They just electrify the crew, and then if you're lucky, maybe that electrifying the tank detonates the fuel tank or some shit, and it might pop. But if you can just fry the crew, you have a perfectly good enemy tank just sitting there sizzling. Also, chemical weapons. You know, we talked about chemical weapons before. At this stage of armor design, they weren't NBC sealed. They were just, you know, they had fresh air intakes, and you know, you could, you know, they get wet when it starts raining or whatever. So you spray a tank down with a chemical weapon, you kill a crew inside or infect them inside. So, you know, that might be an upgrade for your vehicles, like point cost or whatever. You seal, you know, the sealed tank crew compartment or some shit. So that'd be pretty cool. All right, guys, I'm running long in the tooth here. It's already like 9:30. It's like an hour and a half, so I didn't mean to run this long. I kind of went crazy on Cap, but yeah. So again, if you're, you know, if you want to check out what me and my gaming group are gaming, go check out CENTEX Gamers. I'll put the link. The link's in the conversation, but when I do the director's cut, I'll put it in the description. So also, you know, give a, you know, just for shits and giggles, give those Captain America movies a try. Definitely watch the newest Marvel one. It's worth watching. It's good. But, you know, the other ones are pretty shitty. But, you know, if you're a Cap fan and you didn't know about them before now, you know, give it a try. See what, you know, other people's reimagining of Cap was at the time. So they can give you a good chuckle. And then, you know, definitely think about giving your anti-tank troops and just your infantry in general the means to repel enemy armor, and then, you know, give your enemy armor the ability to defend against them in some way as well. Come up with your own weird war creation that'll help repel enemy, you know, electrified, you know, tank hull or some shit where they get on it, they get electrocuted or some shit. Just come up with something, put it in the remarks. I'd like to hear it. All right, guys. Well, listen, all the people out there that were having issues tonight, Brian and Greg, I hope those get resolved in a positive light. My damn cat. My best wishes to my friend Jason and his brother. I love you, man. Sorry about your loss, dude. All you guys, you know, enjoy your holiday. Holidays are coming up, so chill out with the family, have a good time. I guess Mel wants to do Wonder Woman next week, so we're going to do all sorts of Wonder Woman. So I'm sure check that out. All right, guys. It's good to see everybody. Eric, Richard, good to see you. Brian, Greg, Colette. Who else we got here? Keegan, thanks for swinging by. All right, guys. Okay, and whatever you do, have fun this Christmas. Buy a bunch of cool shit for the people you love, and keep it weird. Later.